record, and then let me share the blank PowerPoint. Okay, so that we all learn together. Yeah, so and I like the class actually to be participatory. And so please get ready to be involved. So now I'll just share the page so that what we are talking about is about literature reviews. Okay? And literature, sorry about that. Okay. And in the scope, we really want to talk about the types, or for us to be more technical, the methods, and then talk about the general outline, basically for the proposal, for the reporting. Okay, so outline for the proposal and reporting. Okay, so yes, so maybe before the outline, let us also discuss the objectives. Okay, okay, and any other details and scope, okay, of each type. You know, what makes them different. And then we will end with the general outline. Okay, general outline. Okay, do I assume that everybody can hear me? Yes?
Yes, we can.
Sir.
Okay, good. Because, okay, so let me just, yes. Okay, so that these are what I am hoping we will discuss today. Let me make this. So, can you see what I am writing, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, now, so the first thing, therefore, we will talk about now is the methods. Okay, so first of all, before we even talk about method, let us do the introduction. Introduction. Okay, basically the question is, what is literature review? What exactly do we mean, and then how is it different? Okay, and how is it different from other research methods? Because itself, it is a research method. Okay. Okay, so, and basically, you need to understand that when you are asked to do literature review for the chapter 2 of your research at your protocol. You are basically being asked to do a pre-study for your study, okay? Because it is a literature review. It is a study method on its own, in a study approach, in a study type, that you need to know. And so now let us now discuss this. So just as I said, you are doctoral students, so I am hoping you have read around literature review before today's lecture. Let me assume that is the case. Therefore, let us now discuss. So let us start with the first question. What is literature review? And for me to be able to see everybody, please feel free. So who is going to bell the cat? What do you understand by the by literature reviews? Who is going to help us? Let us unpack what a literature review is. Yes?
Okay, sir. Good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning. Yeah.
Yeah, these are Denka.
Yes, hello.
Joseph.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay, sir. So basically, I think in my own understanding, I think literature review is a form of structured research, writing about a particular topic that is supposed to give us an understanding into what is already known, the different researches that we were able to find, and how the findings agree with each other, and also how the research are being conducted, the concepts being used, maybe theoretical model or conceptual model as the case may be, and also looking at the weaknesses of the evidence that we have. And we also want to understand what is known and being able to understand what is not known to be able to justify our own research. Why do we want to do this, or why don't we want to do this? And I think basically it's just to give us that holistic thoughts about the research topic that we're working on. Thank you, sir. Nova.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, another person. Yes, who else will give us an insight into what literature review is? Should I call names? Lawal, are you there? Lawal M.A. Okay. Is this how we want to do today's is the lecture? Gloria, please. Gloria, now are you there?
Lawal is here, sir. Lawal
okay.
is here, sir.
Okay, Cabo Lawal. Yes, so now what insight can you give to us as to what a literature review is?
Thank you, sir. Literature review is understanding what has actually been done before and in relation to the study that is presently of interest. So there's going to be a comparison of what has been done, the differences from previous findings,
Okay.
How it relates to the objective of the present study of interest. It's just generally a direct comparison of what previous studies have done, the procedures of that those studies took to achieve the results in comparison with what is happening.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Fine. Yeah, fine. There is one word I am actually looking for that the two speakers who have actually spoken so far, they have not yet used in their description. There is one word. So who can actually help me come up with that word? And it is the word that essentially differentiates in a literature review from other types of research. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Everything you said is actually okay, but there's one word. Okay, are you hear me? Yes.
I think the word is a systematic or a careful check. A systematic check of past research work in relation to the topic of interest.
Okay. The word I am actually looking for is actually the word in the secondary. All other study methods that collect data directly from a primary sources, all those other ones that they actually primary research. And the primary research in that you go over to the population, to the respondents, to the data sources, and you collect primary data. And that means data from the horse's mouth, if I should put it that way. All other studies, cross-sectional, observational, experimental, qualitative, you go directly to the primary sources to collect data. Whereas in a literature review, you use secondary data. And I hope we know what I mean by secondary data. By secondary data, I mean that you go to collect data that has been reported by other researchers. And if I put it that way, okay, and that is because you are not collecting data from the primary sources. The people who wrote those studies that you reviewed, and most of them went over to the population, went over to the laboratories, went over to conduct tests, samples, and they came up with the findings of their primary research. Whereas in literature review, sorry about it. But come over to community medicine. Community medicine. Thank you. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. It's a call that I have been expecting. So basically that is what literature review is. Okay, it is a secondary research, meaning that you are going to investigate, to explore, to describe, to synthesize, to critique evidence, data from, sources that we call secondary data. And I'm sure, though, that should immediately ring a bell. That look, and then, yes, there are pros and cons with us using secondary data. Because you actually examining the evidence according to another person's report. Okay, so therefore, because we use documents, articles, okay, some people have also called this type of a study a desk review, which means you don't leave your desk, and maybe, maybe it was called a desk review during the days when they didn't have a computers, where you pile up all the journals, the articles, and the reports on your table. And you read through all of them and extract the information that you need. So, but it is just to actually tell you that, look, for a literature review, you don't need to leave your desk. Okay, so you gather all the articles, the journals, the studies, and you review them. Now, the word anyway, to review means to examine something that has happened before. A review is always a retrospective examination. Okay, something that has happened, something that is actually reported, something that other people know. Just if you like, you can, if we use a layman's as a language, it is basically investigating some kind of a hearsay kind of information, what other people have said, and actually, because there are different kind of people there, different kind of sources, different types of documents, different types of evidence. So we have to be careful as to the way we actually select our data sources. And that is where the word that ADME used as systematic comes from. Okay, you need to follow a step-by-step approach for you to be sure that you gather credible articles, credible secondary data for your retrospective examination of evidence that is already available. So with this particular background, what exactly do we think are the advantages of the literature review over primary research? The primary research, the observational studies, the experimental studies, the mixed methods studies, that are primary. And then this one that I've told you is a secondary research. So from the explanations I have given so far, what do we think are the advantages of a literature review study? Yes, who hasn't actually spoken? Medela, your name is actually prominent. And in fact, I think every person should kindly be ready to actually give me one advantage and one disadvantage of doing a literature review. Yes, Medela, can you start us off? Medela, can you unmute yourself and give us...
Hello, sir.
Yes, how are you? Good morning. Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, so from all we have
thank
said
you, sir.
so far, what can you give us one advantage and one disadvantage of conducting a literature review as a study method?
Okay, thank you, sir. I think one of the advantages is that we have access to a lot of information, a lot of reports, studies that have been conducted. And that will give us the leverage to have access to lots of information and then be able to synthesize. Secondly,
Continue. Okay. I think he is gone. Monisha De, and I think it is Ibiyemi. Yes. He said that it gives us access to the information that you want. That is true, but that does not differentiate it. Differentiate it from a primary study methods. And because people who want to also do cross-sectional studies, they have access to their primary data sources. But there is something that is unique to literature review concerning access that he hasn't said. Maybe that was what he meant, but he didn't use the word that explains it. Okay, Ibiyemi or Monisade.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, sir.
Hello,
so,
good morning.
To my own understanding, yes, sir. So I would say that through literature review, it can help a researcher to conceptualize his or her ideas, because by the time you gather different literatures together, review before the onset of your activity, through the findings from other, you can't be able to conceptualize your ideas, like what and what you're going to bring together, that you are going to make, that your work is going to generate, that your work is going to produce, probably maybe from what you have gathered, you'll be able to conceptualize ideas of what you are going to bring, the new thing you're going to bring on table, like the green that your study is going to fill in based on the knowledge gaps from different articles and so it helps to conceptualize ideas and to gather the information gathered to be able to know the gaps that your study is going to fill in. So through literature review. So, and then one of the disadvantages to my own understanding is that if a researcher is not careful enough, like to know the real the correct, let me just use that language, the correct journals to use to source for the information, you may find out that your work may not be credible enough, or the information may not be credible enough. So researcher, the advantage is that if the sources is not a genuine sources or something like that, so you may eventually not have a very credible work. So that's just it. We may not eventually have a credible information. So if you are not careful to get the correct,
now, which means if you don't put in the checks, there is a risk that you might use evidence that is not credible. I mean, that is right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, for me to go back to the access that the Medala said, I think the advantage he was trying to actually bring up is actually the fact that the data we want to review is already available, and then easily accessible. You don't have to go to the field to start seeking consent of your informants before they give you the information. Okay, it's possible that that was what he meant by the word access. Okay, because that is the core advantage of you doing a literature review before your own study. You have already evidence generated by studies done before your own, and so that by the time you actually review them, then what the BME said now becomes true, in that you are able to actually critique the quality, the evidence of studies that have been done before you do your own. Basically, it helps you to actually fine-tune your own research concept to prevent you reinventing the wheel. So just as has been said, that the literature review helps you to identify gaps in existing knowledge, so that when you now conceptualize your own study, you design your own study to fill the gaps in the knowledge of the subject that you are studying. So, and for you to be able to identify gaps, you need to analyze, to synthesize, and to critique existing evidence concerning the subject of your own research. And so that every time that you read in the articles, and the people say, by the time people use the word, a little is known concerning this subject, this method, it is because they have done a literature review, and they found little or few or no evidence concerning that particular topic. So, the third person, Alice Adetutu, since you have already unmute yourself, can you tell us the advantages and the disadvantages? Alice Adetutu, Oya.
Okay, sir.
I am listening, Alice. Then where'd you go? And I'm in a lecture. Alice, I'm waiting for you, Alice. Hey. Okay, fine. Any other person? Just one last person on this, and then we actually move on. Yes? Can another person please unmute yourself? And Gloria, yes, and tell us more. Or any other person. Yes, good morning. Lola Tunji Gloria.
Yes, sir. Yes, to my own understanding, I think one of the advantages is that it helps to support our methodological choices.
Okay.
The types of design we want to do,
Yes.
the types of instruments we want to use. So if you download a lot of articles in support that are in line with your current study, the study you want
Yes.
to do. So
Yes.
you will have seen the types of design, the instruments they use. So it will help us to make the right choices for our instruments and design. Then one of the disadvantages that I think for systematic review, it is time consuming compared to other review. And also there is a selection bias because you won't know the types of or the years of studies in which you are to pick. So that is when selections bias comes, and also it is time consuming. That's for the disadvantages, sir.
Oh, okay. And I wouldn't actually agree that it is time consuming. I agree with every other thing that you said. Now, the reason why we tell people to do to do literature review in their research proposal is actually because it is a quick type. It is a quick type of a research. If you know how to find the articles, and then you read, and then you extract, in fact, within 2 weeks, if you know what to do, you can actually complete a literature review, depending on the depth that you put into it. And I think it is actually quicker than other study methods. You actually imagine if you are going to do a cross-sectional study, okay, you have to, first of all, and after writing the proposal, you have to apply for ethical review because of the human subjects that you're going to use in your study. Your research needs to be approved. For literature review, it does not need it does not need much ethical approval. You can just go online, go over to databases, collect data, extract, analyze, synthesize, and you write your report. So it is actually quicker than the others, and quicker than a survey in which you have to go over to the community. And first of all, do a community an entry, and first of all, go to seek informed consent, informed consent from the people you will interview, and then plan to actually come back again, the field work, and the field trip, travel around. That takes time. So all that is saved in a literature, in a review, because you sit at your desk and you examine all the journals and all the articles. Maybe what you mean is that the time it takes for you to read the full text of all the articles, particularly if you selected 20 articles, 100 articles, before you will read, extract, yes, it takes time. But overall, it is actually quicker than the time you will spend doing a primary research. In fact, that is why we ask people to do the secondary research first, so that it will guide how you do your own primary research. That is the main benefit of doing a literature review. And is that understood, Gloria?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Oh, do you hear me? Yes.
So I believe what she was trying to say earlier, sir, is that she was trying to compare different literature review
Okay.
in terms of systematic scoping or rapid review,
Okay.
not in comparison with primary review, because
Okay.
I think one of the
Primary
reasons
research,
why
you mean?
this class, yeah. So one of the issues earlier was that I think people don't know how to kind of differentiate or carry out these types of secondary review systematic, the differences,
Yes.
rapid scoping.
Yes. Yes, I know.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I agree with you. Yes, but yes, it is true that actually, in a way, there are different types of a literature review. Maybe that is the second thing we should now talk about. So, and I want you to please hold your Google search close to your bosom, because the way and because you are going to actually help us bring this out. So now talking about types of literature review. So Nadeyemi has already told us some types. Nadeyemi says there is systematic review. And then he talked about the scoping review. Okay. And he also talked about a rapid review. Well, so I hope he will be able to actually differentiate them. Okay. Are there other types or methods of a literature review that Adeyemi hasn't already spoken about? Yes, anybody?
How about broad review?
What?
Broad review. How about broad review?
I haven't heard about that, but we are here to learn. So please get ready to tell us about it. Okay, yes. Any other person?
I think there's a narrative review, sir.
Narrative review. Thank you. So, okay. Narrative review.
Meta-analysis.
Yes, any other type?
Meta-analysis.
Meta-analysis. Thank you. Meta-analysis. And then also meta-synthesis. So get ready to actually speak on them. Yes, any other one? Okay, people have also talked about focused review. Okay. And then people have also talked about PICO. The PICO review, but the PICO review basically just the focuses on the themes. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about them. So now, very quickly, I know time is actually going, and now there's also a student here now waiting for me. So okay now, but still it is good for us to actually understand these different types of reviews and how they are different. Okay, so now who will start us off? Now, what is a systematic review? Please feel free to actually gather information from a Google search. So you can go online and just bring whatever you find and actually share with us in the class. So whatever you find, you can Google systematic in the review, tell us what it says. In the Google scoping review, tell us what it says. Rapid review, well, broad on the review, and I want to actually know more about that. Narrative review, meta-analysis, meta-synthesis, the focus review, and the PICO review. So please just go online, generate information, and then let us discuss, okay? Please, who will start us off? Let us talk about a systematic review. What is the systematic review? Okay, who has found anything? What have you found? What is the systematic review?
Okay, sir. So I was able to find that systematic reviews answered research questions using a predefined, transparent, and reproducible method. It also involved structured search, study selection, quality appraisal, data extraction, and synthesizing of the findings.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think the key word, what makes this particular type of a review on a different from others, and is actually, and I think it is actually the word that's structured. Okay, that word is systematic, means that you actually follow a step-by-step approach, okay, to the way you search for the articles, materials that you want to review. And in fact, if you dig deeper, you are going to find that there are at least 4 steps that you must follow if what you are doing is a systematic review. And first of all, you actually identify the relevant articles through a search of the relevant databases, and so that the way you identify the first broad list of articles, it's actually structured, okay? And following that, by the time you have searched for the relevant articles, then the next step in a systematic review is that you need to screen the quality of those articles you have actually generated from the databases, which means you don't read all of them. You need to actually screen for the quality to ensure that the studies, the journals, the materials, okay, they are high quality literature sources. And then there are different ways by which you assess the quality of journals and articles. Okay, all of you have just gone through the CASP after appraisal, critical appraisal. What you are actually critiquing in that exercise that you completed, you critique their quality. Just for you to actually come out to say that whether the sources that you review, whether they are valid literature sources, whether they are top quality studies that will give you a reliable evidence that you can actually generalize. So that is the second step in the systematic review. Then before you then go on to the third step, okay, it is a step-by-step approach. That is why it is called that systematic. Then the third stage is that you then examine the top quality sources that you selected, okay? You then examine them for their eligibility, okay, to the research you yourself you are doing, okay? And naturally, for you to do that, you need to come up with a set of inclusion and exclusion criteria, okay, which you now apply to the good quality sources that you selected during your second step. So that by the time you actually apply your selection criteria, then you come up with a new list of articles that you consider eligible, which means all the other articles that are not eligible, you exclude from your review. Then, and once you have the eligible, then you need to now read the text, the abstract, the text of each of the eligible articles for you to actually decide which of those eligible contain the evidence that you are looking for. So, and this is the step that we call the step of inclusion. An inclusion into your review sample. And so that step by step, so that by the time you have completed the four stages, you can say you have actually selected a few out of the many that you started with. And so that in a systematic review, yes, it is possible you can actually begin your search with 1,500 articles that you found from a databases. But at each step, you exclude studies that do not fit into the criteria that you set for the quality and for the eligibility and for the inclusion. So that it is possible that even though you could start with 500 list of articles that you got from a databases, in a systematic search, you may end up with 10 that you now include in your review sample. And you can define how you actually selected 10 out of 1,000 that you started with. And then how many you excluded at each stage. And so that when you follow this type of search, the literature review is called the systematic review, which refers to the structured way in which you conducted the search. And so that if when you are defending your proposal, a common question you are asked is, how did you select the articles that you reviewed? A person who actually conducted a systematic review will be able to now describe these 4 stages. And the stages where you actually, the stage of identification of, of the titles that are relevant from a data, from the databases. The stage of a screening, and a screening for high quality, incredible literature for your review. Then the stage of eligibility, where you use an inclusion and exclusion criteria to actually determine out of those high quality, how many are actually eligible according to your criteria. Then before you now end with the stage of inclusion, where that the inclusion means you have read the abstract, you have read the full text of, and you have decided, you have found the ones that contain the literature evidence that you are looking for. And then they are the ones that you will include in the sample of the articles that you now review. If you follow this step-by-step approach, then what you have done is a systematic literature review. Do we understand that? Yes, anybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, we understand, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
clarity, sir.
Okay,
Do we
thank you.
the inclusion and exclusion, are they coming before the abstract, reading the abstract, introduction, and the result, when we are trying to kind of skim through those papers, or is it coming after?
Okay, the stage where you determine the eligibility, and by you applying the inclusion and exclusion criteria, comes before the stage of inclusion. The inclusion phase, that is the stage where you read the abstract and the full text to make sure that, look, all the articles you include, that is where the word inclusion comes from. The articles that you include that is in your final sample for review, all of them contain the literature evidence that you want to actually extract for data analysis. Okay, so definitely.
Sorry, a question, sir.
Yes. Okay, Adeyinka.
So after we've been able to systematically review, include, screen, and exclude, and now pick the one that we wanted.
The stages again: identification.
Yes, identification,
Screening.
then screening, inclusion, exclusion.
The eligibility.
Yes.
Okay, and then the inclusion.
Yes,
the inclusion, that is the final stage where you read the articles to select only the ones that contain the evidence related to your study in your review sample. Yeah, go on.
Yes, sir. So my question now is that after we've done all this, are we going to, in which part of our proposal are we going to put this structured explanation, or probably the numbers of articles we review, or those information?
It is in your chapter 2, sir.
Okay, sir.
And I will soon take you. And I will soon take you through the outline. Maybe I should have to go there straight away. Go on.
So just like you said in our chapter 2, so where exactly are we supposed to put this in the chapter 2 before we now start all the topics, subheadings, and every other thing?
Yes. Okay. I shall address that when when we actually talk about the outline, okay, that you need to actually follow in your chapter 2 of your proposal and the chapter 2 of your thesis, which is always the literature review chapter. Okay, and I will soon come to that very, very quickly. And now the other people, what have you found concerning a scoping review? Who has actually helped us to search for what a scoping review is? A scoping review, scoping. So now I'm sure from that word, and it actually tells you, what it is. A scoping literature review. What have you found? Quickly, then I know that, oh, 1 hour gone. Maybe I should just, because of time, now go on to the outline. So if we can just quickly just tell us about what a scoping and a review is, what a narrative review is, okay?
Okay, so for the scoping review.
Yeah, go on, yes. Jaradinka, what did you find?
Yeah, so for the scoping review, it's used a map extent range and through the nature of the evidence that is available, and also the way the topic is broad, it's actually been useful to research like emerging diseases or emerging field or emerging topics. So it gives us like a broad understanding of what the researchers has done, what is available, the key concepts, the key evidences that are available, and also give us the research gaps. Then for the narrative review, the narrative review it provides a descriptive and interpretive discussion of the extent of the literature. It's also usually less rigid than the systematic review. It may be used fully in predefined selection process just to understand a narrative of a procedure or an event, as the case may be. Thank you, sir, and over.
Okay, thank you so much. Basically, in a narrative, in a review, the search for the articles to review is always broad. Okay, basically, you actually collect and you use every source that's available to you, every source that you can actually lay hands on, okay, without you probably applying any criteria. If a source that's available that you get online, that you get from lecturers, that you get from the library, that you trace through the references of other studies that you read. Narrative, you can also include great literature. The great literature means literature that isn't academic, and such as books, and magazines, journals, any literature source that contains what you are looking for, you include them, and then you read them and you actually extract. There isn't any structure in the way you search for the materials for your review. The key word is that it is broad, it is available, and then the fact that it is called narrative means that the way you treat the evidence is actually descriptive. Okay, there is no structured way in which you present your findings from your examination of of the evidence. Okay, it is a descriptive literature review. Okay, that is why it is also called a narrative, which means that the set is broad and unstructured, and then the way you analyze and also report the evidence is entirely descriptive. Okay. For a scoping review, no, your search is actually guided by the scope that you already predefined for your study. Okay, and for your review. And then that particular scope can actually lead you, as wide or as narrow as the resources that are available that actually deal with the subject matter that you're actually reviewing. And the people also talk about the focus of the literature review. Which means you went out over to the library and then you go out focusing on a particular topic only, probably a particular word only, and then you actually review the literature sources that actually specifically deal with the focus of your study. Okay, so that these are all different methods, so that in your chapter 2 of your thesis, you are required to specify the literature review type or method that you used, because you can be asked that in your defense. How did you do your literature review? What method did you use? So, and then if you have not really thought about whether your literature review was a systematic or a narrative or a scoping or a focused, you won't be able to answer that question in your defense. Therefore, before you set out to do a literature review, decide on the one that you want to do. But the top quality method that most PhD work is expected to be based on is a systematic review, because of all the steps and the criteria, the checks and the balances that are actually introduced to ensure that the final sample of the literature sources that you reviewed, they are the relevant ones, they are the quality ones, they are the reliable ones, the valid ones, they are the eligible ones, and that they are the ones that contain the evidence. Therefore, it is the most trusted type of a literature review. Okay, the other type of a reviews that are called meta-analysis. The meta-analysis or a meta-synthesis, okay, is a review of a literature reviews. Which means that if you gather literature on a review articles that have been published, that means that now you are now dealing with a tertiary level type of a data and evidence. Okay, if a literature review is a secondary review or a review of a secondary data sources, a meta-analysis is a review of reviews, which actually moves the treatment, the analysis of evidence higher up the scale. That is why if you actually remember at the pyramid of the literature, the pyramid of a research evidence, the top level study method, they are the meta-analysis. Meta-analysis, they are the meta-synthesis, because those ones analyze literature reviews that actually reviewed evidence from the primary sources. So the primary sources, the case control studies, the cohort, the experimental, they go to the field, they go to the patients, they go to the lab, and they publish their primary findings. But a literature review gathers the evidence from a primary sources to actually bring them together, to actually synthesize them, to make a new meaning, and to find actually something new, by actually bringing different studies together. Whereas the meta-analysis brings the literature reviews together to still search for a new meaning out of the literature reviews that have been done. That is why that particular word, meta, is there. It is a higher level of a review than a systematic review. Okay? Typically, the meta-analysis is a quantitative review of a literature reviews, whereas the meta-synthesis is more like a qualitative review. And so that these are what you need to know about the types. Okay, because of time, let me now go on to just talk about the outline that you need to follow, okay, in the reporting of your literature review in your chapter 2, so that you know where you insert, you insert the information from what you did in your literature review. So I will share that now. I'm sorry, because of time, now we need to end in about 15 minutes. So now, okay, let me just share, and then we just go through the outline there. Okay, so if you all can see my slide, so let us go through the outline. So we'll just thank you. So so let's now the outline of a literature review chapter. Either in your proposal or in your thesis, the outline is the same. Okay? So for those who I have covered this with before, please, before you come to defend your proposal, if I am there inside the hall, please follow this outline. Otherwise, you may not be able to defend the literature review that you have done. So now, yes. So the first thing is what we call introduction. So in this paragraph in which you relate, okay, you signpost. That is what we call that. You signpost the contents of that chapter. Like saying this chapter presents, discusses the review of existing evidence, blah, 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 contains the results and the findings of the literature review that was done. So that is what you actually begin with. Then before you then come to then talk about the aims and objectives of the review, of the literature review. This is not the aims and objective of your own study. It is of the literature review itself. Okay? Basically, we have already discussed. So if you talk about the aim or aims, you are basically talking about the why or the rationale for the literature review. Okay? And then objectives. Okay, maybe, okay, this is the same thing as the general goal. Or so that if you like, you can call this section the goals. The goals of the literature review. Because the aims, they are the general goal. Okay, where you tell us why, the rationale for review. I am sure we already discussed why we do a literature review. Okay, we do it to review an available, an existing evidence. Okay, yes, for the purpose of you to actually identify gaps, for you to reconceptualize your own study. Generally, that is the broad aim. Okay, so the objectives, they are the specific goals or the specifics accomplishment desired. Okay, at the end of the review. As an example, you can say, one, to search, okay, for credible literature sources, okay, okay. And then after search, you want to analyze that's another one, to analyze existing evidence, okay. Then another one, to identify gaps in the sources, literature sources reviewed. So yeah, maybe this one will be to analyze and to synthesize, because it is important for you to interpret. To synthesize means to interpret. Then before you then identify gaps, then before you then talk about to discuss the implication of the gaps for your own study. Okay, do we understand the goals? Yes? Any question about this? Any question about the goals?
No question for now, sir. No question for now, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Oluwatoyin Josephine, please mute.
Who is that person in the market? Okay, good. So, yeah. Now that time is not going, because I should not go beyond beyond 11:30. So now, so these are what you write, so that if this is your chapter 2, okay, chapter 2, so this will be your 2.1, and this will be your 2.2. Okay, then your aim will be your 2.2.1. And then your objectives will be your 2.2.2. Okay, and you provide a list accordingly. Okay. Good. So then, the third part is 2.3 is the scope of your review. The scope of literature review. The scope of your review deals with, okay, what are the limits of your search, limits of the evidence, the limits of the interpretation. Are you going to have to review a universal evidence, or are you basically limiting it in a limiting review to whether, as an example, Nigerian sources, Nigerian evidence, international, or that is one, or limiting your review to the main themes of your own doctoral research topic. Okay, as an example, and if I say, for example, okay, if your the topic is the prevalence and determinants, let us put prevalence, yes, distribution, the determinants of pulmonary TB, PTB, in Akure, Ondo State. Okay, let's say that is the topic of your study. So if your scope, if you want to actually limit yourself to this topic, so you search for the main themes. The main themes here will be, one, prevalence of TB. Two, determinants of a TB. Number three, pulmonary TB itself. That's another thing. Then four, Akure, Ondo, Nigeria. Okay, that is the location of your study. And that also becomes a theme on its own. So that from this topic alone, you can say that you will limit your review to the main themes of my doctoral research topic, which include the prevalence, determinants of a TB, and then TB itself, and the context of my study, which is Akure, Ondo State, Nigeria. Okay? That means now, when you write 2.3, you are discussing what you mean by each of these things. What do you mean by the prevalence? What do you mean by the determinants of a TB? What do you mean by PTB? And what do you mean by your context? That is Nakure. So that you actually discuss your scope. How extensive, unlimited your review will be. So that is 2.3. So now when you come to 2.4, 2.4 is when you now talk about the literature review method. So 2.4 is literature review method. And here you don't just say that you did a systematic in a review. You have to tell us why. You have to actually describe what a systematic review method is and why you chose it over the narrative, the PICO, the scoping, why you didn't do the meta-analysis and all that. So here you state and discuss your literature review type. Okay, so you state what type is it and why did you choose it? What is the advantage of it? And what should be the disadvantage of it? And so that over here, people are actually informed as to the strength and the weaknesses of your choice of type of a literature review. And that is what you write under 2.4. So now based on this one, then you come to 2.5, which is the search strategy, literature search strategy. Okay, so definitely here, if it is a systematic, this is where you now tell us about the steps of identification of relevant titles, and then the screening of the quality of the literature materials. So whether you use CASP tools or other quality assessment tools. Okay, so and then talk about the screening. Using inclusion and exclusion criteria. And then that is eligibility on the screening. In the screening, using inclusion and exclusion criteria before you then talk about inclusion. Which means selecting studies with the evidence desired for review. Okay, so this is if you use a systematic approach. But if what you did is the broad or the narrative strategy, which means people still need to know how you obtained the list of the articles that you reviewed. So then by the time you now do this, sorry, evidence desired. Okay, then before you now talk about extraction, 2.6. Data extraction. Here, so that you need to tell us about the literature grid you used to extract evidence from the articles. So, and it is actually important that you tell us the variables extracted, the variables in the checklist. Okay, used. So that we know also the variables to expect in the findings. So then you also tell us 2.7 how you did your data analysis. Okay, data analysis, typically you will say that you did no, for quantitative evidence, you use statistical analysis, and you describe statistical analysis and measurements if you did any. So for qualitative evidence, usually you say you use thematic analysis, and you describe how you did it in 2.7. Okay, then before you then come to after this, I hope I have not missed out a step. But anyway, let us continue. So then before you now come here to your findings or the results of the review, so that depending on the variables and things, okay, and things that you extracted, so you actually present what you found. This will be the available evidence in the articles that you reviewed. And you need to cite sources. So for you to actually do that, first of all, you have 2.8.1. You need to give us the number of articles that you selected. You need to give us the background of the studies reviewed. Okay, then before in 2.8.2, you then bring out the evidence according to the themes. Okay, evidence by theme and by headings, by themes and categories of your review. Okay. In my own case, I will present first what I found concerning. So definitely you talk about empirical evidence. Empirical. So that will be on the prevalence. What did I find? What did I find on the determinants? What did I find concerning pulmonary TB? What did I find concerning PTB in Akure? These are the themes that I actually set out with. Then following this, you need to also give us a methodological evidence. What types of studies? Talking about the study method used. Okay, used by past studies. You actually discuss them. Then before you then end with the theoretical evidence. Okay, what theories did you find? So theories relating to existing evidence and past studies. Okay, so basically these are what you will write, and then every evidence you give, cite the sources, that is the authors. Okay, no, cite the of those evidence. Okay, and you include them in your references at the end of your proposals. And so that when people read this, they have no doubt as to how many articles that you reviewed and what evidence that you collected from them. So then before you come to 2.9, which is basically, we call this discussion. But in this discussion, you synthesize, that is, you synthesize existing evidence that you found. So which means that all these findings in section 2.8, what do they mean? Okay, what exactly do they mean? Okay, so the first thing you do is to synthesize the evidence that you got. Then before you now discuss also, so that you can have 2.9.1, 2.9.1.1, synthesize, interpret. So the results of, the results of your review. Okay, so synthesize, interpret. What exactly do they mean? What meaning can you make out of it? Then before you then 2.9.2, you can then talk about the gaps, discuss the gaps in existing evidence. Okay, gaps in existing evidence. Then before you come to 2.9.3, you then talk about implications for further research. Okay, no, so that it is actually important what are the implications of these gaps? Implication of gaps. So before you then conclude, conclusion 2.10, this will be the conclusion, okay, where you will now discuss the implications of existing gaps and the implications for your own study, for your own doctor. What do they mean for your own doctoral research? Does that mean you will need to change your topic? Does that mean you will change your research question? Does that mean you will change the philosophical background, the theoretical background, the conceptual background of your study? Does that mean you will change the aims and the objectives? So basically, these are the outline that we expect you to write in your chapter 2. And then also that this will help you structure the chapter 2 of your thesis as well. So I think this is where I will want to stop. I am sorry I have taken longer than what I had anticipated. Any questions? So do you follow? Do you understand everything we have covered today? Femi Ogedengbe, I have not heard anything from you. Sunday, Uyekunle, all of you who haven't actually spoken today, do you understand? Oh, okay, it appears everybody has gone. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
with you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
any question?
Yes, I have one, sir.
Okay, what's your question?
I just want to know, is this the standard for chapter 2 in UNIMED?
Yes, sir.
That is the okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Every properly written the chapter 2 should provide the information under these different headings.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. So, fine. So then, if you don't have any further question, I say thank you so much for today. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir. This is well appreciated and it's going to really be very helpful. Thank you, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, everyone. Yes. Okay, bye.